Joining us today is Greek-American fashion expert Christos Garkinos, known as the Robin Hood of fashion. Christos Garkinos has been featured by Japanese Vogue as one of the most fashionable men in the world. He's also been seen in the pages of Elle, Vanity Fair, Glamour, Los Angeles Magazine, Angelino, and of course, Vogue. Christos, welcome to our studio.
Kalimera.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm very good, actually. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited.
We're excited. You're gorgeous. You dressed so well. You walked in, everybody was like, oh, who is that man?
I just, I have to thank my father because, I'm definitely his son. So thank you for that. But it's all my Greek genes.
Yeah, blue eyes. By the way, guys, you can't see his height. He's like 6'5", and he's just so sharply dressed, and that's what you're famous for.
Yes, I've always loved fashion my whole life, and I've been lucky enough to parlay it into an amazing career that's let me open up one of the most amazing stores in the world called Decades, and where I deal with vintage couture. And it's got me a show. I had a show on Bravo television, and now I have a clothing line coming out. So I'm a very big Greek in terms of entrepreneurship and really making it out there. And it's due to my parents. They're entrepreneurs the whole life.
Oh my God, you've done so much. We're so proud of you. You're representing Greeks on American television.
All the time.
You are just such a supporter of so many things, but I'd like to start off with your background.
Yes.
So, because you were telling me all these great stories about your family.
Yeah.
Tell us about your background as a Greek growing up in Detroit.
Well, I grew up in a 100% Greek family. In fact, my grandmother had a stipulation in her will. The first one who married a non-Greek got cut out of the will.
That's Greek.
Just the first one. And then it was over. So my cousin married an Italian, so it was done.
She's out.
Done. So basically, so my parents were born in Greece. My mother was from Rhodes, and my dad was from Kalimata. And they immigrated when they were 12 and 16, respectively, to Detroit, where I'm from. And they met at church. Our bowling, one of the two, the church bowling leagues. They loved to bowl. And
both Greek things.
Both Greek things, right? Yeah. And they married in the late 50s, and then they had me and my sister, and we lived above my Yaya and Bapu in a duplex in Detroit. My Nuno were down the street, my Theo were down. So it was very Greek. It was very
family.
I love it. Detroit has, obviously, a huge Greek community. It's huge. And I was an altar boy for 13 years, and of course we had a restaurant.
That's amazing. I know, it's a Greek story.
Totally, a restaurant. We had a restaurant for 30 years. It was called Meatown Inn. My dad was the
That's
cook.
Not a Greek name, but we like it.
I know, he had good food. My dad was the cook. My mother was out front. I was the cashier, and then I'd go to sleep underneath the counter as my mother would type out the lunch menu, and I would hear the tap, 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 and I would wake up. That was my alarm to wake up for lunch, honestly, Aditya. And so then, he would yell in the back, they would yell in the front, and he just loved it. And I love the whole camaraderie that's why I love retail so much. I love the rush you get, and every day you don't know what's going to happen, and and really understanding people. So we had the restaurant for 30 years. My church moved from Detroit to Grosse Pointe, so all of us moved out to Grosse Pointe with the church. Because the church was so important to us. We had and I was vice president of Goya.
Oh, that's hysterical.
I know. So my grandmother, who I love, and she lived till she was 95. When I was running for vice president of Goya, I don't know if it makes any sense at all, but she, when you were sick as a child, she would make, she'd do the alati, she'd put warm water with oil inside and do the thing on your forehead, just to feel better. Right. And then she would then say, if you were feeling sick or if you're out for something big, she would do that. Then she'd tell us to run, directed, around the table 3 times so we could ward off all evil spirits or give us luck. So I think about it now, what was I doing again with my grandma? So.
These are the things you remember.
Totally. Every Friday she'd go with incense to each room and bless each room. She'd make yogurt before it was, Greek yogurt, by hand. Yes. So it was just all that. So I really feel I've always been very connected to my Greek community, and I love them all. And I have a big, huge Greek Easter every year at my house. 45 people come, and
wonderful.
So anyway, so I love it.
And that's what makes you so special too. Your background, this wonderful love from home and traditional, our culture. And it's important that people do understand that it is the Greek community and our church that has kept the Greeks together and Hellenism alive amongst the new generation of Greeks.
Yeah, I was a son of Pericles. My sister was a maid of Athena. My mother was a daughter of Penelope.
What position did you play? Center?
No, that was just for the group. But I was a basketball player. I played forward. Here's the thing. I wasn't that great, but I had the best headband. So I want
that video. I want those pictures.
I was like that. So because the Serbians were the worst. So they're running towards you they're so big, those Serbians. I'm like, oh God, the Serbians.
The Greeks, though,
the Greeks, right? We had to do it. So
you come from that area.
I support all my Greek friends. Like a good friend of mine is Debbie Mentonopoulos, who I'm sure you've
She's
met.
lovely, yes.
And
We've
she has
had
a
her.
cookbook coming out soon, and she's a good friend of mine. And I meet Greeks, and like Hannah Simone, who's on New Girl, she's Cypriot, so we hang out. So I really just would love to do that. So
how did you leave Detroit? You ended up in LA.
Yeah.
You have one of the best or most famous vintage consignment shops in LA. And tell us about that transition of your life.
Well, I went to school at Michigan, and I graduated with a degree in business and French. I actually speak French too. And so I remember the day where I had 2 job offers in Chicago and San Francisco, because it's hard to leave my family. I sat my parents down and I said, here's the choice. Like, what do I should do? Just want this much money, that much money. Of course, my dad's like, "What's more? What will make you more money?"
Go where the money is.
So I moved to California. Yeah. So that really got me there, and I was able to kind of start my career. But it was a very conservative business. But I showed up like in the first day with like a briefcase and a 3-piece suit, and they're like, "You're too fashionable for. You have to go home and change."
Are you serious?
Yeah. So that really was.
What type of business were you?
I was a brand manager at the Clorox company.
Are you serious?
And my first brand was Kingsford Charcoal. So I learned how to barbecue. I can barbecue with beer, hickory chips. I know everything about barbecuing. And it was a big job. It was all these Harvard MBAs around me, and I was just an undergrad. But on the weekends I go
creative,
up.
You had talent.
But I felt I wanted to be in something a little more creative. I just felt it was part of me. But my parents were like, go to business school, get a job. So I would listen to them. So I went from there to I actually got into Harvard, and then I didn't go because Disney offered me a job in LA, and I've always wanted to work for Disney, and I was there during the heyday of Disney, and then they sent me to Europe to open up all the Disney stores in Europe. And it was actually a great time because my dad passed away right when that was happening. I went to Europe, and my mom and sister came out, and I opened up the Disney store on the Champs-Élysées, and it was a great moment with Mickey and Minnie and fireworks. And I remember seeing my mom and sister my dad just died, and just crying. So this moment I knew he would have loved to been there for it. So, and then I stayed there for a few years, and then Richard Branson, the famous businessman, and another hero of mine asked me to come back to LA to open up all the Virgin Mega stores. And I love music. When I was growing up, we listened to Trio Bel Canto, and that somehow got me start dusting or vacuuming. She'd put on that music, my mother, and we just would start. She still has the same stereo player, and we would just. Didn't you grow up to Greek music on Saturdays, and you had to clean? So we did all that. And then I started this business while I was still in music because I wanted to be in fashion, and it turned out we started with 50 consigners, and a consigner is someone who allows me to go through their things and consign their pieces for them and then resell them. Mm-hmm. So it's gotten big. We started with 50 people, and now I have over 4,000 people around the world in my Rolodex, so that's used anymore. Amazing. And so it's called the Robin Hood of Fashion because I take from the 1% of people who give Chanel really rich, and I sell to everybody else at a much lower price.
Good for you.
So it's kind of I basically am doing fashion's good work.
Yeah, good for you.
But I got to go back and do trunk shows around the country. I go to Detroit, and growing up I was obviously born Christos. But I went by Chris because no one could say my name in American school. Right. So I went to college, 18. I went to Paris. I came back, and by the way, now I'm Christos 100%. Don't call me Chris.
100% Christos, not Chris.
I go back to Detroit where all the Greeks are, and they still call me Chris. So I went back for my trunk show, and they'd call me Chris, and the back of my head would just go like this. And I said, "It's going to be 10% more for you." If you call me Chris.
If you don't call me Christos.
Okay, then that's good. I'll give you the Greek discount.
That's so funny.
Anyways.
What a fascinating story. Very impressive.
Yeah.
You've worked for some wonderful people.
Yes.
And then you got involved with television.
Television, yes.
So tell me about your experience working with the Dukes of Melrose.
Yeah, so and this is back to my father again. My father really wanted to, he did a little background work in the movies in Greece before he came over, and he was always interested in film, and we would watch movies on Sunday all the time together, and so I think he always wanted to kind of be in front of the camera, and I felt very natural in front of it because I had a marketing for Disney and Virgin. I'd be the face of everybody and met everybody, and so the whole reality show explosion. If you're in LA and don't have a reality show, you don't matter anymore. Everybody has a reality show, and I was like, it's going to be our time at some point because people have our store. So Bravo came to us and said, will you do the show? And I said, I think it'd be great for me and the brand and to expose people more to what I do. And I had a great time doing it. I got to be really super Greek. They covered my Greek Easter, my mother doing shots of ouzo, doing the Zempico, and just being crazy and throwing the doropitas on my mom, my sister, and I, and all that stuff. But it got me to where I wanted to be today. It got me exposed to my new deal with the Home Shopping Network or HSN. When I was 22 years old, the first thing I ever bought with my first credit card were pillows from the Home Shopping Network. Alethea, I'm not lying.
And now you're going to be on HSN.
It. So you don't understand. And
See, it's always a dream. Just put that dream in your head.
I agree. And I tell kids all the time. People would ask me as I had these big jobs, like, what would be the cherry on the top of your career? I said, I can tell you right now, taking my first phone call on HSN or Home Shopping, because I like to be able to. I think it's part of being Greek. I like being able to connect with people and tell stories. I mean, Greeks are known for telling stories. I'm in the storytelling business. I never tell people I'm in retail. I tell stories about the clothes I find, and and from celebrities or whatever it is, and people love hearing that. So I'm not a salesperson. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah. You're actually a very real person, and I think that's you bring out a lot of you got a great personality. You offer a lot, and tell me a little bit about what this new line is. So you've gotten
new line. It launches very soon on March 20th on the Home Shopping Network, or HSN, and it's called Eureka, obviously a Greek word by Christos Garkinos. And Eureka, it's called that because whenever I find something I love in someone's closet, I don't say it out loud. Eureka, like, okay, I found it. So I was like, do you want this? Like, I don't know. It's okay.
We'll think about it. I'll tell you later.
Maybe I'll find the girl for it. Why don't you give it to me? So I've seen over 1 million pieces of clothing and accessories in my life. I've only taken in maybe 200,000 to sell. And so I'm very picky, but the clothes were size 0 to 8, and it's just one. And I come from a family where the girls are real sizes. My sister is like a real size. My mom is, and all the women I grew up with, and my mom and sister have the most amazing handbag collection in the world because it comes from me.
Right.
But the clothes I couldn't find for them. So in my head, I wanted to develop a line where, my mom, my sister, and real size women in the world.
For real women, yeah,
could have a taste of what I've seen over the years, and the silhouettes I think would be great on them.
Good for
and that's
you.
where it came from. So
why don't give us some tips for our Greek women watching, Greek American, Greek women, everybody watching. What do you recommend for, let's just say, a very voluptuous woman?
Show your best you know. I don't like it when women who wear long sweaters and try to cover up the whole thing. Cover up half if you want. A crop jacket is great because it shows the narrowest part of your body and allows it to kind of give you a nice, beautiful. Sophia Loren is, for me, I know and Maria Callas, two women I love. And actually, the line really is inspired. The first piece of my line is a peasant blouse. This gorgeous peasant blouse that I saw. My parents asked me on my 15th birthday. True story. What do you want to do for your birthday? I'm like, well, Sophia Loren's going to be at the mall and she's signing her perfume and I'd like to go meet her. So my parents looked at me like, who's this guy? So I went and she walked past me and she had a peasant blouse on, the big sunglasses, and her wig was, her wigs are always off a little bit, but she was walking past me and I was on a chair and I said, Sophia, it's my birthday, and I saw her in this beautiful peasant blouse, and will you wave to me? And she started to wave to me. I got so excited I fell off the chair. So cut to 30 years later, I had my Sophia peasant blouse that's in there. You can make it with an obi belt, and you can, if you're a larger size, you can use a belt to kind of give yourself a waist when something's a little more. I just don't want people to cover up their beauty. I mean, not that I think Kim Kardashian's a fashion icon, but she's got a butt and she shows it off. I think that women should have that. If you've got, my sister's like, her girls are up here. I'm like, we'll show the girls off, because this part of a woman's body, you should also feel like it's an accessory. There's nothing I think sexier than a woman's shoulder or clavicle, or obviously in her décolletage.
Does it minimize when for women?
Because your eye goes right here.
Does it minimize if you wear a V instead of a turtleneck?
I would totally wear a V over a turtleneck because it gives the eye to go somewhere. And people, if you're dressing for women, you're dressing more fashionable. If you're dressing for men, you're dressing a little more sexy. So you have to decide what you want to do. And so I can't wait to go really talk about these tips to my friends and family and stuff.
Tell me about, since you go into all these closets, into all this vintage stuff, and you've seen all these different trends, tell me how fashion keeps reviving and revolving. Yeah,
I think that, I always see, I think that a Chanel jacket is something that every girl, or some version of it, in fact in my line I have my version of Chanel sweater jacket, every girl needs to have, because that's something that never goes out of style. And I recommend someone having something like that. An amazing crop leather jacket is something I see all the time in girls' closets that are great. And the brands that really kind of stay true are Chanel, Hermes, Prada, Gucci, these brands that kind of have high resale value. I mean, there's nothing better when someone calls me. I actually had a call once from a woman from New York. I was in LA. She calls me on the phone. She's like, I hear you help people. And she's whispering. I'm like, okay, well, what kind of help do you want? I hoard Chanel. So literally, you know those commercials, those cartoons where the person like goes so fast, like the Roadrunner. I have one apartment in my building that has Chanel, and the rest I live in. This is in New York. I'm in LA. I'm on the next flight. 4 hours later, like knock, 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 knock.
And what do they sell them for to you? I mean,
Chanel is great because it basically, if a jacket's $2,000, I probably will sell it for $1,200 to $1,400, and they get half.
That's a huge
It all depends.
Discount, yeah, those people don't realize those brands do not go on sale, ladies.
And if they do go on sale, it's stuff that is not great.
But Chanel, Louis Vuitton, I don't think I've ever seen a sale in
Louis, they do sometimes.
Louis, never.
Louis, never. You know why? They burn all their clothes in the season.
Why? Just
they don't
to keep it.
They don't want an aftermarket. They want to keep it sort of in
that high level.
Can you imagine that bonfire?
What about Hermes?
Hermes is great. I mean, obviously, it's gotten to be so crazy to try to get one of those Birkins or
the Birkins
bags. You know, and
even the belt, it's out of stock for the past year.
Or the correlated shand. They're hard to find. They're very hard to find. And you can find things online. You want to find someone who's reputable and really kind of make it happen like that. But I've made women. Whenever I see a woman who I've dressed, they're always telling me their stories like, you don't believe I walked into this party and people could not stop talking about the dress I got from you.
Wow.
Which to me, that's the best thing ever. I've actually saved a woman's life because of fashion. She's a big publisher here of a magazine in New York, and she bought a pair of Christian Louboutins for me that she loved, a pair of shoes. And she was walking in the street in New York, admiring them, and she fell into a manhole sort of construction zone. So, she felt a little dizzy, so she decided to go check out everything. Because of her shoes, but she got to the thinking just to look at her knees and stuff. She got to the hospital and they found a tumor in her that she would not have known about if she wasn't admiring her shoes. And so they went into surgery and they got the tumor out, and she's totally fine now. But when she sees me, she gives me a big hug because I saved her life because of shoes.
God.
So there you go. I mean,
you're an angel.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
in the right way. And you do so much because you are also the ambassador of hope.
Yes.
And
one of the ambassadors for Greek American Foundation. And it's really, Greg Peppa started this foundation in Chicago, and I've become very involved, and I met so many people through him and what I do. And I sold parts of my closet clothes away and I'll do things throughout the year. I was in Chicago last year. I went to the Masquerade Ball. I was a featured person in LA this past year on the big. They had Mickey Mouse in a
yes,
and an Evzon outfit.
Yes, I know. He's just that's never happened before.
No.
And that's amazing. And he does wonderful things. And we're big fans with the Gabbies and everything that Greg is doing. We support, and we support all of you guys that are doing you're representing the Greek community in the United States, and you're so talented, you're so wonderful and fabulous, and we'd like to thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
Where can people follow you?
Well, I am on Twitter, Christos Decades, but Instagram's my fun thing. Christos Garkinos, my whole name, Christos Garkinos, to find me there, and I'll be talking about what's going on. So.
Well, we're going to watch out for everything you're doing, your new reality show.
I'm dying
to see what you do. I want to see your mom and your sister on it.
They're crazy.
And we're going to follow you, Christos. Thank you so much for coming to
Okay.
New Greek TV and Kalimera USA.
Thank you.